Midnight. Rain hammered the road in heavy sheets, turning the world into a blur of white flashes and echoing thunder. A truck roared in the distance, lightning split the sky, and inside an old sedan a small voice whispered, "Dad, look, lightning!" 5-year-old Oliver pressed his hand to the window, eyes wide as the night lit up for a moment before darkness swallowed it again. Natan Cole, 32, exhausted mechanic for HWL Industries, tightened his grip on the wheel. He had been driving carefully for miles, eyelids heavy, body aching from 12 straight hours at the shop. Overtime had dragged late into the night. His boss demanded a delivery truck be repaired before morning, and as the only provider for his little son, Natan didn't have the luxury of refusing. Oliver yawned and curled closer against the cold window, already drifting into the easy sleep of children. Natan smiled tiredly. At least his son would rest before preschool in the morning. The same could not be said for him. His hands were still greasy, his back throbbing, and the hollow ache of 5 years of single fatherhood weighed on him like a familiar shadow. Ever since his wife, Emma, died from sudden eclampsia during childbirth, every day had been a battle he fought alone. His son survived. Emma did not. That thought lived in him like a scar, permanent, painful, defining. Emma was irreplaceable. Friends told him to move on, to date again, to rebuild a life. But Natan refused. Emma's memory was sacred, and Oliver was the last piece of her he had left. Rain lashed harder, blurring the empty street ahead. The city slept, the late hours swallowing all movement. Then, at a lonely intersection, something unusual caught Natan's eye. A sleek black Mercedes, engine running, driver's door wide open, headlights piercing the storm. No one was inside. The sight was strange enough for Natan to slow down. When he pulled closer, his stomach dropped. A figure lay motionless on the ground beside the car. A woman. Not moving. Natan parked quickly, glanced at Oliver, fast asleep, and stepped into the cold rain. Within seconds he was drenched. He ran to the woman, crouched beside her, and gently shook her shoulder. "Miss, can you hear me?" She groaned faintly, eyes fluttering open. The scent of alcohol soaked her breath. Very drunk. Soaked business suit. High heels. She must have stumbled out of her car and collapsed. Natan sighed. He should call an ambulance, maybe even the police. But leaving her alone in the freezing rain was dangerous. "Come on, let me help you up," he whispered, sliding an arm under her shoulders. She tried to stand, but her legs buckled. He held her firmly by the waist, guiding her upright as she mumbled incoherently. Then a roaring engine tore through the storm. Natan turned sharply. Headlights exploded across the wet pavement. A truck was speeding toward them at terrifying speed, too fast for the conditions, too fast to see two dark silhouettes in the rain. Natan's instincts screamed. In an instant he grabbed the woman, pulling her violently toward the grass. They fell hard, rolling into the drenched weeds just as the truck thundered past, spraying a wave of dirty water over them. It didn't slow down. It didn't even notice. Panting, heart racing, Natan lay still for a moment, the woman limp beside him. She blinked slowly at the sky, confused. "Where am I?" she murmured. "You're safe," he said, voice shaking with adrenaline. "A truck almost hit you." She tried to sit again, her gaze unfocused. "I drank too much. I don't remember getting out of the car." Her voice cracked with humiliation. "It's okay," Natan said softly. "Let me get you somewhere warm." He helped her back to the Mercedes, ready to call her a taxi, but she shook her head desperately. "No taxi, no one can see me like this. I'm the CEO. If this gets out, my career is over." "CEO?" Natan frowned and looked closer at her face. Recognition hit like a cold slap. He knew this woman. He saw her that very morning, standing at the head of the conference table, shouting at him in front of 50 employees because he was 5 minutes late. His son had refused to get dressed for preschool, and Natan had arrived breathless and apologetic, only to be humiliated by her unforgiving anger. Vanessa Hart. The powerful, merciless CEO of HWL Industries. and now she hung on to him, unable to stand. She didn't recognize him, too drunk, too distressed, but he recognized her. He could walk away. Leave her. Let the night punish her after what she did to him. A moment of cruel justice. But then he remembered Emma's words. Kindness doesn't depend on whether someone deserves it. It depends on who you choose to be. He taught Oliver that same lesson every day. Naten swallowed the bitterness rising in his throat. He would help her, not for her sake, but for his own integrity. Where do you live? He asked quietly. She told him the address. He guided her carefully to his sedan and placed her beside sleeping Oliver. Then he returned to the Mercedes, locked it, took the keys, and slipped them into her coat pocket. He drove through the storm toward her upscale neighborhood. Towering gates, manicured gardens, security guards who looked shocked at their CO's condition. Inside her grand house, Naten helped her to the sofa, covered her with a blanket, placed water beside her, and glanced around. The mansion was immaculate but cold. No family photos. No warmth. A museum without life. He wrote a note, left his number, and slipped out the door as quietly as he had entered. Oliver slept through it all. Only the storm bore witness to what had happened. And Naten had no idea that saving a woman who once humiliated him would change both their lives forever. Vanessa Hart woke to the stabbing brightness of morning, her skull pounding as if someone were driving nails behind her eyes. She blinked, confused, disoriented. Her bedroom. Her sheets. Her clothes still on, damp with the lingering scent of rain and whiskey. A glass of water sat neatly beside her. Her heels were placed by the door, aligned carefully, not thrown aside like they would have been if she had staggered home herself. She frowned, heart pounding as shards of memory stabbed through the haze. Whiskey in a quiet bar, rain against the windshield, her trembling hands gripping the steering wheel, darkness closing in. Then nothing. A terrifying blank void. She sat up too fast, her head spinning. Had she crashed? Had she hurt someone? A tremor ran through her fingers as she scanned the room for her purse. She found her coat folded over a chair and reached into the pocket. Her car keys. Relief and dread knotted together painfully. Then she saw the note. A small piece of paper, neatly written. I brought you home. Your car is parked safely on Eiffel Street and 3rd Avenue. The keys are in your coat pocket. Drink water and rest. Naten. If you need anything, call me. Her breath caught. Naten? Who? She didn't remember a Naten. Panic tightened her chest. Had someone taken advantage of her vulnerability? Had she embarrassed herself? What had he seen? Downstairs, her secretary Sarah greeted her at the door. Good morning, Miss Hart. Are you feeling better? Better? Vanessa forced a composed smile. Of course. Why? Oh, Sarah said brightly. Security called this morning. They said one of the employees brought you home last night. He told them you were feeling unwell. Vanessa froze. Which employee? Naten Cole. From the auto workshop. The room tilted. A sharp rush of heat flooded her cheeks as her memory clicked into place. Her shouting at a mechanic the previous morning, humiliating him over 5 minutes of lateness, the disgust in her own tone, the anger she had unleashed on a man who looked like he had already lived a lifetime of exhaustion. That man had been the one who found her in the rain. The one who lifted her from the ground. The one who saved her life. Shame crushed her ribs as Sarah continued talking, but Vanessa couldn't hear a word. She nodded absently and retreated into her office, shutting the door behind her. She exhaled shakily. Her mind whirled with fragments, his steady voice saying, You're safe. The sensation of strong arms pulling her out of danger, the faint sound of a child's sleepy breathing in the car. He hadn't left her on the road. He hadn't used her vulnerability against her. He hadn't demanded anything. He had simply helped. The weight of her behavior settled heavily on her. She had screamed at him in front of everyone. She had belittled him without knowing the first thing about him, or his life. And he had still chosen kindness. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Security again. Miss Hart, Would you like us to call Mr. Cole to your office? Vanessa hesitated. Fear curled in her stomach. Fear of facing him, fear of what he thought, fear of letting her carefully constructed image crack even an inch. But she straightened her shoulders. Yes. In 30 minutes. When she stepped into the conference hall at 10 o'clock, she carried herself with practiced confidence. She presented quarterly numbers, answered questions, moved through her slides, until she couldn't pretend anymore. She stopped, breath unsteady. Before we continue, she announced, her voice echoing through the hall, I want to acknowledge something important. Dozens of faces turned toward her. Managers, engineers, mechanics. Including him, Naten, sitting quietly in the back row. She felt her throat tighten. Last night, she said slowly, one of our employees helped me during a critical moment. He showed courage and kindness, asking for nothing in return. The room buzzed immediately. People exchanged confused looks. Mr. Naten Cole, she said, searching the crowd. Are you here? Naten stood reluctantly, visibly startled. Vanessa met his eyes and felt every ounce of her guilt settle heavily on her heart. Thank you for helping me, she said, her voice soft but unwavering. You saved my life. A wave of murmurs swept the room. A CEO thanking a mechanic publicly, unheard of. Naten shook his head awkwardly. Anyone would have done the same. No, Vanessa said firmly. Not anyone. The meeting ended shortly after, the murmurs following Naten as he walked out. Vanessa returned to her office, nerves twisting inside her. When he knocked softly and stepped inside, she stood to greet him. Please sit, she said, though her hands trembled. I owe you an explanation. She told him everything. Her father's sudden death 3 days prior. The funeral that morning. The emotional collapse that followed. The whiskey she drank trying to numb the pain. Her complete loss of control. And then her voice broke. I endangered myself. And you saved me. After I treated you so cruelly. Naten's expression softened with something she did not expect, understanding, not resentment. My wife died the day my son was born, he said quietly. Grief breaks people in ways they don't see coming. I don't judge you. The crack inside her widened, and tears spilled silently. She wiped them away quickly, ashamed. I'm sorry for how I treated you. You deserve better. I forgive you, Naten said simply. Pain makes us do things we regret. Silence settled between them, heavy but healing. Vanessa breathed for what felt like the first time in days. She wanted to thank him more, to offer him something meaningful, money, a promotion, anything, but he shook his head before she could speak. I didn't help you for a reward, he said gently. It was just the right thing to do. His humility struck her harder than any reprimand ever had. And for the first time in her life, the powerful CEO felt genuinely small, not in weakness, but in the realization that true strength did not always look like hers. It sometimes looked like a tired mechanic pulling a stranger out of danger at midnight in the rain. Days passed quietly after their conversation, but neither Naten nor Vanessa remained unchanged. Something subtle yet undeniable had shifted between them. The woman who once seemed untouchable now felt painfully human, and the man who once blended silently into the background had become someone she could not stop thinking about. She found herself replaying the moment she woke to his note, the sincerity in his eyes when they spoke, the way he gently reminded her that kindness held more weight than perfection. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to breathe without armor. A week later, on a Saturday afternoon, Naten arrived at the auto shop with Oliver clutching his hand. Their usual babysitter was sick, and Naten had no choice but to bring his son. Oliver's small fingers tapped excitedly on Naten's wrist as they stepped into the workshop lobby. At the front counter stood Vanessa, speaking quietly with the manager. She turned at the sound of footsteps, and her face brightened. Naten, she greeted warmly. I hoped I'd run into you. Naten blinked. Miss Hart. Didn't expect to see you here. Just Vanessa, she corrected gently. And no, I'm not here about my car. Everything is fine with it. Her smile softened. Actually, I came to talk to you. Before Naten could respond, Oliver peeked out shyly from behind his father's leg. Vanessa lowered herself to her knees to meet his gaze. And who might you be? Oh, Oliver, the boy whispered. Oliver, she repeated with a soft smile. Your dad talks about you often. It's very nice to finally meet you. Oliver's eyes widened. He does. Of course he does. He says you're the best helper he has. Vanessa winked, and Oliver's shy smile blossomed into something proud and bright. Oliver, Naten murmured, go play with your cars for a moment. I need to talk to Miss Har, Vanessa. The boy scampered off to the small play corner Naten had set up near his workstation. Once he was busy arranging tiny toy vehicles into a colorful traffic jam, Naten turned back to Vanessa. You said you wanted to talk? She nodded and placed a folder on the metal table beside him. I've been thinking a lot since everything that happened. Her voice softened with sincerity. You told me not to keep my pain inside. I took your advice. I started seeing a psychologist. It's helping. Naten looked surprised but relieved. I'm glad to hear that. But that's not all, she continued. It made me realize how many people suffer silently. Especially single parents. People like you. She gestured around the workshop. I want to create a program, Heartwell Hearts. A charity initiative for single mothers and fathers. Financial support, childcare assistance, psychological counseling, legal aid. Completely free. Naten's mouth fell open. That's incredible. And I want you, she added, to be part of it. Me? Naten shook his head immediately. I'm just a mechanic. You're not just anything, she said firmly. You lived what this program is meant to help. Your experience is more valuable than any degree. I want you as my advisor. He hesitated, torn between humility and purpose. The idea was overwhelming. Helping people like him, people who felt alone, stretched thin, unseen, felt deeply meaningful. But doubt whispered in his ear. I don't know if I'm qualified. You are, Vanessa insisted gently. And it's paid. Flexible hours. You can bring Oliver when necessary. She smiled softly. Say yes, Naten. Help me build something good. He exhaled slowly. All right. I'll do it. Vanessa's smile illuminated the workshop. Thank you. As weeks passed, weekly meetings became their new rhythm. Sometimes in office conference rooms, sometimes in cozy cafes, and often with Oliver building block towers beside them. They spoke about logistics, legal frameworks, budgets, community needs. But between technical discussions, something else grew: trust. Vanessa told him about her childhood, her lonely climb to the top, the pressure of perfection, the fear that no one saw her beyond her title. Naten shared stories of his life with Emma, the ache she left behind, the strength Oliver forced him to find, and the nights he nearly broke under the weight of single fatherhood. They didn't speak of romance. They didn't need to. The unspoken understanding between them deepened with every conversation. One afternoon, after wrapping up a meeting, Vanessa hesitated before leaving. Would you and Oliver like to have lunch with me? Nothing fancy. Just a small family cafe nearby. Naten was going to refuse, reflex from years of keeping boundaries around his grief, but the sincerity in her eyes made him pause. We'd like that, he finally murmured. At the cafe, Oliver smeared sauce on his nose, giggling as Vanessa played along, dabbing it gently away with a napkin. Naten watched her laugh, really laugh, for the first time since he met her. It was soft, warm, utterly human. After lunch, they walked to the park. Oliver ran between trees collecting colored leaves while Naten and Vanessa strolled slowly behind him. The sunlight filtered through branches, warming the crisp air. Thank you for today, Vanessa said quietly. I haven't felt this normal in years. Like part of something real. You are part of something real, Naten said. You're helping so many people already. You gave me the idea, she replied. You gave me hope. A second chance. They stopped walking. She looked at him with raw sincerity. You saved my life that night. Not just from that truck. You saved me from drowning in my grief. Her voice trembled. And you're making me believe in kindness again. Natan's throat tightened. You saved me too. In your own way. She smiled, small and meaningful. When Oliver ran back holding a handful of leaves, he thrust them toward Vanessa. These are for you. She knelt and accepted them as though they were precious jewels. They're beautiful, Oliver. Thank you. Her eyes glistened, not from sadness, but from something rediscovered. Belonging. The three of them stood together in the soft autumn light, a mechanic, a CEO, and a little boy who connected their hearts without even knowing it. And slowly, quietly, none of them realized that their lives were already changing forever. The launch of the Hartwell Hearts program arrived far sooner than anyone expected. 3 months of planning turned into a polished, powerful initiative that drew journalists, employees, investors, and single parents from across the city. Vanessa stood backstage, breathing steadily as camera flashes burst from the conference hall. Her speech rested in her trembling hands, not from fear of public speaking, she mastered that long ago, but from the weight of what this program meant. It wasn't just a corporate initiative. It was her redemption. Her second chance. And it was born from one night of unexpected kindness. When she stepped onto the stage, applause rippled through the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, she began. Today we launched the Hartwell Hearts program, an initiative dedicated to supporting single parents. Financial aid, childcare assistance, psychological counseling, legal support, all at no cost. Her voice grew warmer, steadier. This program exists because of one man's honesty, resilience, and kindness. A man who understands the struggles of single parenting not from textbooks, but from life. She looked toward the side of the stage. Natan Cole, please join me. Natan walked out, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. Cameras flashed wildly. He stood beside Vanessa as she continued. Natan raises his son alone while working full-time. He represents strength, humility, and courage. His insight built this program. His experience guided every step. And I am proud to call him not only a consultant, but a friend. Applause erupted, echoing through the hall. Reporters leaned forward eagerly. The moment was overwhelming, and Natan shifted awkwardly, cheeks flushed. But deep down, a small warmth blossomed inside him, pride he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. After the press conference, questions poured in. Miss Hart, what inspired this project? Mr. Cole, how does it feel to represent single parents? Vanessa answered with sincerity. Natan answered with humility. When everything finally ended, the two of them exchanged a tired but grateful smile. The program opened applications within the week. In days they received over 150 requests, stories of grief, exhaustion, resilience, and hope. Natan read every one, tears burning his eyes more than once. I want to help all of them, he murmured. Vanessa touched his arm gently. We will, one step at a time. 30 families were chosen for the first phase. When they gathered in the decorated conference hall for the welcome event, children chased balloons while parents wiped quiet tears from their eyes. Vanessa addressed them with warmth Natan had never seen from her before. Welcome to the Hartwell Hearts family. You are not alone anymore. Parents hugged her, thanking her through trembling voices. Natan spoke too, sharing his journey, his grief after Emma's death, the nights he thought he couldn't survive, the joy Oliver gave him every day. The room listened, not with pity, but with connection. Weeks turned into months. The program thrived. Families flourished. Parents found jobs, stability, peace. Children laughed more easily. Vanessa and Natan met every Saturday to evaluate progress. Some meetings were long and strategic. Others drifted into personal conversations that neither of them realized lasted hours. Their lives intertwined gently, naturally. Vanessa visited Natan and Oliver often. She helped Oliver with homework, read him bedtime stories, laughed at his silly jokes. And Oliver adored her. He clung to her hands, drew pictures of her, saved the nicest leaves from the park just to give to her. One evening, after dinner at Naten's small but warm apartment, Oliver tugged at his father's sleeve. "Daddy, will Auntie Vanessa live with us?" he asked innocently. "I want her here every day." Naten's breath caught. Vanessa stood in the doorway, hearing every word, her eyes turning glassy. She knelt beside him. "I will visit as much as your dad allows," she whispered gently. "I promise. But I want you here always," Oliver murmured, hugging her tightly. Vanessa held him, heart aching with a yearning she hadn't felt in years. When Oliver ran to his room to fetch a toy, silence blanketed the kitchen. "I'm sorry," Naten said quietly. "He's gotten attached." "I'm attached too," Vanessa admitted softly. "To him. And to you." Her voice trembled with honesty. "I know you loved your wife deeply. I respect that. But I want you to know that what I feel isn't fleeting." Naten looked down. His heart was a battlefield: love for Emma, loyalty to her memory, fear of replacing her, guilt for moving forward, and something bright but fragile growing for the woman before him. "I don't know what I feel yet," he said honestly. "You mean a lot to me. But I'm afraid. I'm not asking for an answer now," Vanessa whispered. "Just know that I'm here." They held each other briefly, a quiet, trembling embrace heavy with unspoken hope. Weeks later, life threw Naten a curve he wasn't ready for. A letter arrived, Start Solutions, a major engineering firm 2 states away, offering him a senior mechanic position with double his current salary, housing included, excellent schools for Oliver. It was a dream. It was everything he had worked toward. It was a future he couldn't ignore. But it meant leaving Vanessa. Leaving the program. Leaving the life they were building. He met her at the park where golden leaves scattered the ground. She sensed something was wrong before he spoke. "I got a job offer," he said. "It's in another city. It's everything I ever wanted for Oliver." Her face paled, but she nodded slowly. "Then you have to take it." "You think I should go?" he asked, heart aching. "You're a father first," she whispered. "Always." Her voice cracked, but she kept her composure. "Oliver deserves the best future. And you deserve stability. You should go. Even if it hurts." He saw the pain behind her forced smile. The sacrifice. The quiet love. "Thank you," he murmured, pulling her into a tight embrace. "For everything." The farewell gathering weeks later felt like the ending of a chapter no one was ready to close. Families cried. Parents hugged him. Vanessa's speech left half the room in tears. "Naten changed this program, this company, my life. He showed me kindness stronger than pride, compassion stronger than grief. I owe him more than words can say." When she finished, she hugged him, whispering, "If fate wants it, we'll meet again." 6 months passed in Naten's new city. Life stabilized. Oliver thrived in school. The new job treated Naten with respect. But every night, when the apartment grew quiet, Naten found himself remembering Vanessa. Her smile. Her softness. Her strength. One morning, a letter arrived, handwritten, elegant. Inside was a photograph, a new building with a bold sign. The Naten Cole Family Support Center. His breath caught. The letter read, "Dear Naten, I miss you every day, but I'm grateful you and Oliver are happy. I opened a new center in your name, you inspired it. Your kindness has changed more lives than you will ever know. If fate brings us together again, I will be here. With love and gratitude. Vanessa." Naten pressed the photo to his chest as Oliver ran over, eyes wide. "Dad, that's you! When are we going to visit Auntie Vanessa?" "Soon," Naten whispered, a quiet smile touching his lips. "Very soon." And somewhere, hundreds of miles away, Vanessa looked at the same sky, believing that fate had only paused their story, never ended it.